Hi, my name is Dr. Becky Carmichael, and I'm the Science Coordinator with Communication across the curriculum. Today, I'm going to share with you a few tips for crafting effective scientific posters. Effective communication requires the construction of a solid message, and that message is composed of 3 parts. So, whether you're doing a talk or a poster in the sciences, it's critical that we consider these 3 pieces. First, what is the purpose and reason you're there to deliver this content? What is the point of the information you're sharing? Is it to educate someone about particular land practices, or is it to share a discovery in your lab? Second, who are you as the writer? Establishing your credibility informs others as to why they should listen to you, and then the information that you're sharing is accurate. And third, who is your audience and what is their knowledge needs? You may be talking to a group of 4th graders or peers, and depending on who you're speaking to dictates the language and the analogies that you may use. Considering these components allows you to tailor your talk to the appropriate audience and ensures that you can deliver your science effectively. A poster presentation is a very unique environment because you have a very mobile, distracted audience. And so as the presenter, it is your job to attract those audience members over to listen to your science. So in this distracted mobile audience, you need to construct your poster considering how you can make the information focused, logically ordered, and visually appealing. In general, there are 3 types of posters that you can create. One is on original research, where you have formulated the questions and you're going to share your approach to answering a specific question. Posters can also take the form of an evaluation of methods, a device, or protocol. Perhaps you're wanting to share with a group of peers how one method compared to a second. And the third type of poster presentation is a case study, where you're providing feedback and responses. With any type of poster presentation, it's best to start with a plan before you start with the software. This is because you want to have an idea with what kind of information you want to share and what kind of visuals you will use before you start playing with design in PowerPoint, Prezi, Keynote, InDesign, etc. The way I like to look at this is to consider the outline of a scientific paper, starting with the title, moving into the introduction and background, my methodology, results, discussion and conclusion, and not forgetting acknowledgements and references. This type of outline allows your audience to logically follow the information you're going to share, and it is in an order that they expect. Also, it helps you keep focused on the content or the question you're wanting to address. One of the first ways to capture your audience's attention is through the title. For most conferences, you are required to submit a title and abstract prior to attendance. This is the first exposure your potential audience will have to your research, so it's necessary to be clear and concise with what you're going to address. Angelica Hoffman, in her 2010 Scientific Writing and Communication book, suggests breaking your title down into 3 components. The topic, so what is the overall question of your study? The approach, what methods or what are you doing to answer the question? And the system, what are you using to answer the question? A title should be no more than 2 lines and can contain key words that describe your study. So let's look at a couple of examples of effective poster titles. One title example is an evaluation of fire severity on Japanese climbing fern regrowth in a longleaf pine savanna. So in this title, we can locate the topic, the system, and the approach. but the title reads more like a publication and it's really not as interesting. Instead, for your poster, you can convert this title to a statement. Fire severity influences Japanese climbing fern regrowth in a longleaf pine savanna. All three components from Hoffman are still present. You can still find the topic, the system, and the approach, but now the title is indicating to what does fire severity influence Japanese climbing fern regrowth in a longleaf pine savanna. A question might pique someone's interest and have them come over to speak with you directly. Again, all three components are still present: the topic, your system, and your approach. In the introduction, you're providing enough background to place your research into context of current work in your field of study. And then you're providing justification for how your research will add to the current knowledge. By starting off with the background and then leading into the significance, it allows you to then get into your central question. What are you doing for this particular study? It is important to remember that the introduction is in a power position. It's in the upper left-hand corner. This is where people logically expect to find the background information and then move down into your methods. Also, you should consider placing the information into bulleted statements. Bulleted statements are easier to read, especially for your mobile audience, rather than block text. Your introduction and your poster overall needs to be consumed in 3 to 5 minutes, so block text is difficult to read. Bulleted statements allow you to get the point across quicker. Materials and methods are where you share with your viewer your key procedures, statistics, and methodologies that were used to complete the study or to conduct this study. I encourage you to consider information-rich graphics, whether they be flowcharts that show the procedure or images of specialized equipment and analyses, or third, labeled drawings that actually depict calculations and measurements that were taken. The results section are where you share the overall findings from your study, and it should be the largest portion of your poster, so make it visual. There are 3 components of the results section: an initial summary with details, a story shown through figures, and a figure legend. So you want to present your overall main findings first, and then go into more specific details. But remember, you want to maintain focus on your particular question of study. This should only be the pertinent results that relate to the information and question posed in the introduction, not every observation. Use figures to tell the story of your findings. Figures should remain simple, address the research question, and include a caption and a legend. Past tense should be used in writing the results because the action is already completed. Also, you want to make sure that you interpret your data to a degree. This is not conclusions or overall generalizations, but rather stating the information in a way that an audience can comprehend. I want to share an example with you on how to interpret your data for your reader. So the first bit here is the increased fuel load treatments released on average 45 kilojoules per meter square of heat per unit area. Now, unless you're someone who's studying fire intensity and fire severity, this may not make any sense to you. There's too much detail and it hasn't been translated. Instead, you could say heat released by increasing fuel load was 3 times greater than in unaltered fuel load locations. Now you've provided some more information. Someone understands that areas that had a higher fuel load burned hotter than the other area. You can think about the discussion and the conclusion as the reverse of the introduction. Answer your specific question first. What do your results mean? What were the key findings? And what is supporting evidence? Explain how those findings fit into the current knowledge of the area of your study. Compare and contrast ideas to previous work, and state limitations and unexpected findings in your study. Finally, summarize and provide indication of what's the overall importance. What is the next step of your research, and why should you have a next step? An example of a discussion and conclusion section is as follows. Here you have 3 bullets that really get at what were those major findings and what does this mean? And then finally, what is the next step and why is this important? In the acknowledgements, you want to recognize individuals and institutions that have contributed to your work. Here is where you want to thank those that were involved with the actual collection of the data or the formation of the question. You want to indicate funding sources, grants, or your university. Small logos can even be placed in this section. You do not have to include honorariums or titles, such as doctor. Instead, you can just use their names. Always include your financial support. For many granting agencies, this is a requirement on any presentation that they have funded. Any information that you use on your poster has to be cited. Because of the available real estate is really limited on your poster, you may wish to use a citation method similar to the journal Science. In Science, references are cited in text by number and in the order with which they appear. This style reduces the amount of text, leaving more space available for you to tell your research story. Also, instead of having a full citation, as you see here, you can instead condense that information. Someone would still be able to locate this particular reference, even if the title is not included. Once you have your content in order and you understand how you're going to lay that out and have the graphics you're going to use, the next step is to consider the construction of your poster. There are several different softwares that you can use to construct your poster, from InDesign and Inkscape, which are vector-based, to PowerPoint, which is really commonly used. Before you go and use any of these softwares, what you want to first do is set up your page dimensions. This tells the software the size of your poster will be and automatically adjusts so as you start to fill in content, it's in the right size. Through construction, you still have to keep in mind how you're going to attract and maintain the attention of your mobile audience. And so, with the layout, you can do that. When someone approaches a poster, they expect to find information along this zigzag path. In position 1 is where they expect to find the introduction, 2, the methodology, 3 and 4, the results, and 5 and 6, the discussion, conclusion, references, and acknowledgements. If you alter this order, you end up with a confused reader. I have a few example layouts that I would like to share with you today. So in this slide, you can see we have marked out sections for all of the sections that you would anticipate being in a poster. Please take note that those sections are distinguished from each other, and their headers, introduction, methods, results, conclusion, references, and acknowledgements, are clearly labeled and in a large font. Up at the top, you can see we have a placement for the descriptive title, and below that is where you would place your authors, their addresses, and their email. It's always important to include your email. You may not always stand beside your poster, and someone may want to contact you about your work. You can also see that I have placed logos up in the top corners of my poster, but this is not always necessary. You can, in fact, make them smaller and move them into the acknowledgement section. This may be important if you don't want them to distract from what's your overall question. It is a preference. Colin Purrington has some fantastic poster design tips, and he also provides downloadable PowerPoint templates for someone to use, and I want to share a few of these with you today. If you'd please notice, the results are still taking up the majority of the poster. Posters can also be 4 columns dependent on the work that you need to share. Again, all sections are clearly labeled and distinct from each other. In some cases, a vertical poster may be appropriate for your work. If you select to use a vertical poster, be sure that you look at the conference rules and guidelines to ensure that they will be able to showcase your work. Once you have your plan, you can next focus on the best design for your audience and your purpose. And one of those design points is selecting appropriate font styles that will ensure that your information is easy to read and is appropriate for the venue. I first want to talk to you a little bit about style. And so we've all seen all caps. All caps are really difficult to read, so you want to save those only for acronyms or particular characters. The same goes for font style choices. Some styles are less professional than others. Usually a sans serif font is easier to read. Think of Arial font and others. Save your bold for emphasis and the italics for scientific names or special characters. So these are a few guidelines for your font, but are not necessarily hard set rules. The overall idea is to make your poster visible in a crowded space and minimize the text. The title should be visible at a distance, because you don't know if you're going to have a crowded situation in one of these conference halls, and you want to use that title, remember, to attract your audience over. Keep your headings a little bit bigger. Consider having them at a 36-point font, with your body really no smaller than a 22-point font. Figures, references, and acknowledgements can be smaller, but make sure that they are still readable when someone steps up to look at your poster and interact with you and ask you questions. Color can be used to make your poster attractive. It's also another way to convey information, so you want to select your color carefully. Background color is useful when you want to unify the poster and help organize sections. I recommend avoiding graphic backgrounds. Graphic backgrounds, then having text that's on top of those, makes it confusing and can distract the reader from what the content really is. If you really want to have that graphic background, why not make that a picture or an image on your poster? Some color combinations are really difficult to read, as I'm showing in these 2 examples. Other color combinations may help allow graphics or images to stand out from your poster, so consider those combinations. When looking at posters, have you ever wondered, how did the author select those colors? Well, color doesn't have to be difficult, but it does require consideration of your audience and a little bit of understanding of the color wheel. Know what colors mean for your audience. Reds, yellows, and oranges are warmer colors, and they may mean hot, fire, or even energetic. Blues, greens, and purples are your cool tones or your cool colors, and in nature, that could be water, grass, or give a feeling of calm. This example from Compound Interest illustrates how color selection can both unify and color code information on a poster. Notice how the bell peppers are both an interesting visual element, but also a legend for chemical compounds. Understanding how colors are created helps in selecting visually pleasing color combinations for graphics, organizing information of your poster, and making data pop. If you are interested in learning more about color theory, including complementary color selection, split complements, and analogous color combinations, visit our video for color theory. Quality of images is important for capturing an audience's attention and conveying important information. Try to use the highest resolution possible, at minimum 300 dots per inch. We might locate an image from the web and it may be small, around 72 dots per inch. So when it's expanded to dimensions suitable to be viewed on a poster, it's stretched, it looks pixelated, and it conveys unprofessionalism. Along with quality, add polish by including a border around your images. This will help them stand out from any background and is a cue that draws someone's eye. Select images that are data-rich. Rather than using cheesy clip art, choose to include images that allow you to tell more of your research. In this example, you can now discuss aspects about the fire type, the ecosystem, and more. It really utilizes the space that you dedicate to an image in your poster. Make sure you dedicate the space to something you can get the most information from. As with articles, images and graphics have to be cited as well. Include the citation for all images, even if they are your own. Fair use or copyright-free images can be found on Wikimedia Commons or by selecting the advanced search in Flickr. Our video on fair use for images will help you learn more. Let's talk a little bit about graphs. So as we all know, we'll put in our data in Excel and we'll generate some type of bar graph or trend. And what we get is a lot of graph junk. Instead of keeping just that and placing this on the poster, I challenge you to make this interesting. Alter the default settings so that you can produce graphics that are both simple yet effective in conveying the trends of your data. So let's talk a little bit about what I did to adjust this particular image. First, I went around and I increased the font size of the title, the legend, and my axes. Again, remember, your poster has to be visible from a few feet away because you may have a crowd around you and they all want to know, what did you find? I next altered the default settings for charts and graphs on my Excel. So I moved that legend from that wonky appendage on the side to right above at the top of my graph. Again, remember that logical order with which we read from the top down and then zigzagging over? This follows that rule. I've also gone in and I've adjusted the size of the data points and provided a border around them, and I removed that background color. Now my data trend stands out. Delivery is the last stage or step for providing an effective scientific poster. There are a few steps to consider when you're preparing to share and present your scientific poster. First, you want to consider how you will discuss your research to your audience. Second, your poster is your medium and should be used. Consider how you will navigate and lead your audience through that information. Third, you will want to keep your audience engaged and will need to think about ideas for holding their attention and being attentive to their needs. And finally, and most important, practice, practice, practice. Going over and rehearsing your presentation of your poster multiple times to different audiences will help make you aware of what are tricky points, allow you to become comfortable with the delivery, and will help refine your message. Remember the components of a message: the purpose, the writer, and the audience. So during a poster session, the audience may range in expertise, knowledge, and need. It is therefore important to create an elevator talk that meets their individual needs. I recommend actually developing 3 talks or 3 versions of one talk. One for experts in your field, one for the general scientific audience, and one for a broader audience group. These should have all of the information that you want to deliver for your message, but should be tailored to the knowledge that meets your audience's needs. This is not to say that you're talking down to anyone. No one likes that. Instead, you're making your knowledge and the information you're wanting to share, the science, accessible to them. When someone approaches, you need to assess their understanding. And this can be done with what I like to call trigger questions. So, for example, I was interested in understanding how fire severity influences Japanese climbing fern in a longleaf pine savanna. To understand my research, audience members need to know the role fire has in an ecosystem. So perhaps after I introduce myself to someone, I can start with, are you familiar with the role fire plays in maintaining ecosystems? Based on the answer, I then know how to proceed. I can go through my talk adjusting it with some simple questions here and there to make sure that my audience is still with me. Preparation for your elevator talk is similar to development of your poster. You want to provide a roadmap for the audience that is easy to follow. Consider opening with a brief summary of your background, your question, and indicating why this particular study is important. This leads naturally then into your methods and your results. If you present your work in a logical order, you can then direct the audience through your poster, stopping at key points and methodologies or findings. Do not read your poster. Rather, have a conversation and use the poster to highlight important points. Remember to be animated and enthusiastic. This is your research. You are the expert, and you want that excitement to carry over to your listener. When you're there for the day of the conference, you're going to have your poster that you're going to be able to use and walk your audience through. But you can also may consider bringing other visuals or using analogies to help explain complex ideas and methods. Things that you can bring include mounted specimens, maybe some electronics, to show how and why you did a particular piece. Sometimes it's simply having audiences repeat a phrase or do a particular motion. If your research was on reflexes or joint structure, maybe it's simply having them wiggle their fingers or move their elbows. You can also bring your resume or CV and include that with a print of your poster so viewers can take that with them and then remember you for the research that you did. This could lead to other types of connections and collaborations in the future. While you're excited to deliver your science and share with this group, you also need to be aware of nonverbal cues, both for yourself and your audience. So a couple of things that I like to point out is in this image you see the defensive stance. Arms crossed, legs crossed, they don't want to talk. So if you're standing like that, no one's really going to want to talk to you. Consider having a more open stance, having a friendly face. For your audience, watch them. Look and see if they have a confused look on their face, and if they do, ask if you can address any questions. Also notice their feet. If their feet are still pointed at you, they're still engaged. But once those feet turn, they're looking for a way out. And respect that. Don't be offended. There's just a lot of science in that conference to look at. On the day of the presentation, you want to come prepared to engage your audience and share your science. Be professional both in dress and in conduct. Do not have casual conversations with friends while ignoring potential poster visitors. Those visitors could be a component of your future in collaboration or maybe even mentors. Be polite and present. Offer to answer any questions. When you are telling your story, clarify any confusing details and check with the audience to ensure that they understand. Answer questions honestly. It is okay to say that you don't know. You can instead offer to get back with that individual once you understand or have those details for their question. Bring supporting materials like business cards or a small print of your poster with your CV on the opposite side. These materials provide yet another way to extend conversations beyond the poster session and help to leave a lasting impression. For more tips, suggestions, as well as assistance through appointments, you can contact us in the Science Studio located in 151 Coates Hall. You also can follow us on Instagram at LSU CxC Science or follow us on Twitter at CxC Sci.